Here's some inside gossip, a little bit of scoop on what's happening in InGoal Radio, the podcast. David Hutchison is our dad, but he doesn't know when to let go. And Kevin Woodley is the reckless child, but the child that wants control of the steering wheel. And I just sit back and do nothing. Before we start every podcast, we're all everybody ready to go. And the last minute, Hutch will say, recording. Don't you? Every time. Every single time.
It's because I forget every week.
Every time it happens. And Woody, he does nothing. But 20 minutes in, I can see him checking his recorder to make sure that he's actually rolling on the recording of it because he doesn't want to stop and let us go. Sorry, guys. I wasn't recording.
Woody's just checking for recording space because he talks so long.
Is it because he's dad, or is it because we actually have like two really impressive interviews that nobody will ever hear because he forgot to hit record?
Two? I know I screwed one up really bad.
I can't remember what the second one is now. But we
in
definitely
that case, I think there's 5. If you can't remember, I can't remember 4 of them. It's presented by the Hockey Shop, source for Sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com. You can remember one for sure.
Now,
100%.
Oh,
it
I
was
know
tragic.
one. Yeah, and it was so good too. And then we tried to start again, and the guy was so because he wanted to. He was so good the first time. He wanted to be just as good the second time, and his answers he tried too hard, and then he wasn't happy with them, and then we never ran the interview.
You can't.
And I think the second time might have been the 3 of us. It might have been when we were the 3 of us doing intros, but Hutch was here in person, and we were in my basement. So that doesn't.
We
that
screwed
doesn't
up every time we're in person.
That doesn't count.
Got to be remote.
That doesn't count.
Zoom for our backup.
The one time that we did it in person that scared me the most was when we were at the National Hockey League draft a couple of years ago in Vancouver. And we sat down with Marty Brodeur, and I was petrified something was going to go wrong with that one, that we weren't going to be able to pull that out of it. Like, I still think back and go, who gets to sit down with Marty Brodeur the morning of the draft
for an hour
like in person?
Yeah, I think the only regret we had on that one is we probably would have put a lapel mic on him because Marty talks like he plays goal, very active hands. And so the levels on the mic were, Hutch did a miraculous job making it good, but
holy cow.
It was moving around so much. I actually use that analogy anytime I do a personal interview to sort of remind guys like, hey, like I use that story like, hey, like if we don't have a remote mic and you're holding the mic, you got just try and keep it somewhat, in a similar spot.
That's a good challenge. Hey, I know this is going to be hard, but try and be better than Brodeur if you can. Okay, he's got great skills as a goaltender, but he wasn't very accomplished at holding the mic. This is your one opportunity to be better than Martin.
Yeah, but you can't be better than an interview because he was like. That's the thing. There was just so much passion in the interview that he was active talking with his hands a little bit. Like it 100% understandable. If I was that invested in the conversation, I'd be moving around.
I want to
go
back and listen to that thing. Not for the mic and the being off mic, but just to lean into Brodeur one more time, because that's the most I've ever had a chance to talk to him in all my years around him. What a special moment. Did we get pictures with him too? Or
we did.
We did.
Yeah, we got a couple photos somewhere.
All right. Well, flip those over to me because I got to put them on my wall of fame back here. I got to get that going. Hanging out with Martin Brodeur. Like that is just really special. He's won a Stanley Cup before as we bring you InGoal Radio, the podcast presented by The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, and source for Sports Langley. We have Sergei Bobrovsky against Adin Hill. Your challenge over the course of the next week is I want to know Adin Hill is the most unexpected goaltender to reach a final since ... All right? You don't have to give me names right now. I really want you to, and this is for the listener as well. Do some work on this. Look back. Give us your choice because Adin has been fantastic in the opener of the Stanley Cup final. He made a miraculous save with the back half of his paddle, which I think is the part of his game that's impressed me the most this year is the desperation side. We know that he can make saves. We know he can control rebounds, but being athletic and the desperation, he's really blown me away with the ability to get in the way of pucks in odd scenarios. The most unexpected goaltender to reach a final since ... Can you do it?
Can I ask, is that unexpected from some point, like when the playoffs started, when the season started? Are we going to qualify this in any way at all, or just go for it?
We can have some fun with it. I'm going with when the playoffs started. I'm thinking about it, that he was out of the lineup down the stretch. He was flipping back and forth with Jonathan Quick as the backup to start the postseason, and then he takes over because of injury in the second round and is now here into a Stanley Cup final. And he never played a minute of postseason hockey before this year. But he's not a new guy. Like, he's not the kid bursting on the scene, called up and making this run. He's in the veteran category.
And he's out like for all the hype that Sergei Bobrovsky's getting, and well deserved. Like on a per shot basis since he got into the playoffs, Adin Hill's adjusted save percentage is actually better than for the playoffs. The only guy that's better than Adin is Igor Shesterkin in the first round. Then it's Adin Hill, and then it's Sergei Bobrovsky. Now, Bobrovsky's played a little longer because obviously he started sooner. He's got more goals saved above expected, but sort of on a per shot basis, that save percentage differential by ClearSight Analytics when these Stanley Cup finals started. And I honestly surprised myself when I looked this up. For all the talk though about Bob, Adin on a shot by shot basis has actually been better overall in the playoffs. Now listen, hey, don't forget, Bob was actually below expected against Boston, and he's on an absolute heater since then. But for the total playoffs, like, that's just, it's not sort of trying to pit one against the other, but just to sort of show how good Adin Hill has been. Yes, the Vegas Golden Knights are a hell of a team. Yes, Bruce Cassidy has them playing a system that I think a lot of goalies would like to play behind. But relative to that shot quality, Adin Hill has been that
You mentioned
good.
something. His numbers were not great against Boston. That I've heard that a couple of times, and I don't get it, because he came in and gets all the credit for turning that series around. It's a sort of a paradox to me.
Well, I mean, below expected. I mean, the raw numbers are what they are too, but at the end of the day, that was more of a, and that's the thing, right? Like, the numbers are the numbers. There's still more to it. Do they get past Boston if he doesn't stop Brad Marchand on a breakaway in the dying seconds? Like, they don't even get to overtime, right? Like, so big moments, big saves. I think that's been a big part of Bob's game. From there on, the numbers overall and the amount of goals that went in against the Bruins weren't as flattering, but he still had those, grade A difficult stops. I mean, Brad Marchand on a breakaway in the dying seconds with your season on the line, and you stop him cold. So, in a small sample, sometimes you got to throw the numbers out, but it's interesting, like, as good as he's been overall, that series, they weren't as impressive. And since then, he's been otherworldly.
I have been impressed with the mental strength of both goaltenders coming through incredible challenges through these Stanley Cup playoffs. And Bob just seems to be stoic in that almost typical Russian face where nothing changes. And Adin Hill is the surfer dude from Vancouver Island over in Tofino. He's not from Tofino, but he would fit right in over there, where he's just chill, loose, and relaxed. And they handle it differently, or they approach it differently. They portray it differently. And it's almost like what our good friend would do with our upcoming mind seminar on how you handle things, and you manipulate your surroundings to best fit your mental approach.
I have enjoyed seeing Bob smile occasionally. I don't know, maybe it's just a contrast from what we're used to. But definitely, if you'd like to have the mental game of a Sergei Bobrovsky or an Adin Hill, that little edge that separates you from the rest of your competition, we would love to see you join us on June 24th in Vancouver with our good friend Pete Fry, the goalie mindset guy. Pete is doing a full day where he runs through his complete repertoire of skills and techniques for becoming the best goaltender you can become. It's a hands-on, very active day. And this year, it concludes with an hour on the ice where you get a chance to put into action all the things that you've learned in the classroom. And if you can't join us on the 24th in Vancouver, you can still join us online. And as we love to do, we're offering a discount for every InGoal member. And if you're not a member yet, but you want to come and join us, whether online or in person with Pete, it's not too late to sign up and become an InGoal member today.
Boy, what a busy couple of weeks for you guys, Woody, with Pete Fry there and we've got the wide world of goaltending all descending on Langley.
And Pete Fry will be there.
Yeah, no.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So will Ian Clark. So will Mackenzie Skapski. Amongst the featured guests at Tendy Fest, the hockey shop, thehockeyshop.com, putting on there. It's back. It's back, baby. Tendy Fest. And I don't know
That was
what
a little
the hell
Bob
that was.
Cole.
Tendy Fest is back. It's back, and it's in Langley this year. Make sure you check out all the social media of the hockey shop and thehockeyshop.com, Twitter, Instagram, for all the details. There'll be prizes. There'll be all the major manufacturers. And I guess, yes, we're bringing special guests for Q&As and interview sessions, but the biggest thing for everyone is a chance to try all the gear. Bauer's bringing a massive inventory, CCM, Brian's, Vaughn, Warrior, they're all going to be there. Reps from the companies are coming in, like the big reps, the big dogs from these companies. They know how important the hockey shop is when it comes to the goalie department and the work they do. They're coming up to Vancouver. They're bringing lots of gear so you can get on the ice and try the latest and greatest and see, if it fits your game. We talk a lot about Bauer and the uniqueness of their pads. Warrior with the slide plates. You're going to hear all about the slide plates from our special guest, Ben Bowns, our featured guest this week on the InGoal Radio podcast. He's used them. He loves them. If you're wondering what it's like to get on the ice and try some of these innovative new sort of technologies that are out there, but maybe you're a little old school or you're just used to what you're used to, this is the perfect opportunity to try before you buy. Get out on the ice, take some shots, move around, slide around. I think they're going to have 2 sheets going all day. So make sure you check out thehockeyshop.com and all their social media for details. June 17th in Langley. Tendy Fest is back and promises to be better.
And what do you
than
guys
ever.
have lined up for it?
We're going to bring some Sense Arena. We're going to bring Hutch.
Woody's there. Pete's there. It's going to be a fun day. We're gonna hang out and talk goaltending with people. We're gonna share our experiences with all the different gear and all the different coaches and goaltenders we get to hang out with, and just give everybody a chance to see what InGoal's all about. But Sense Arena, I know normally we thank our sponsor Sense Arena before the feature interview, but every time we talk about it, I know people are trying to picture what this virtual reality tool for goaltending is all about. Now you can actually come on out, get your hands on it, and find out exactly what Sense Arena is all about. Because we'll have a couple of headsets at our table, and we'll be able to sort of walk you through what that Sense Arena experience is. You can come, give it a try, see how you fare against NHL shooters, and see how you fare against other goaltenders around the world. And then maybe you'd like to give Sense Arena a try. And if you do, head over to sensearena.com and use the fancy code IGM50, and you'll save even more. Slid that one in early. Thank you, Darren.
Nicely done. Our feature interview this week, Ben Bowns from the British Pro League, British National, did a great job at the World Championships, gained promotion. So the British team is back up into the to the top pool. A lot to go on with that as the man from Cardiff will stop by in just a little bit. And we've also got our gear segment to feature the Vaughn V10 line, which I'm trying to get my head around this. It's the softer pad, but it's a little bit firmer than in the past. Like there's an evolution going on with this, but it's still softer relative to everything that we've seen before or which is current on the market.
I can see how you'd be confused, Aaron, because you are in the Vegas locker room where Jonathan Quick has a pad that is skinned as a V10, but you could probably grab it and fold it up like a pillow.
I watch him with his pads, and I'm like, I would need 3 Volkswagens to fall on my pads to be able to bend them as much as his do when he's sliding across the ice.
So that's where the confusion lies. This is not as soft as the old school Vaughn. It has gotten stiffer, but it is still relative to their SLR line, their softer pad. I'll be honest with you, though. Don't listen to me. Let's go to the expert. Let's talk to Cam, get all the details in this week's gear segment on the new Vaughn V10 line. I know our audience has been asking for it. Like, I can't remember who it was. I apologize. I don't have it in front of me, but whoever kept every review we did, when's Vaughn V10, when's Vaughn V10? Well, they finally got it in stock, which means we're finally able to deliver to you in this week's gear review. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports out here in Langley. We're in Cam's Corner, Cam's Crease, Goalie Utopia, whatever you want to call it. We have new gear today.
We do.
And a lot of people on the YouTube channels have been asking, when are you going to have the Vaughn V10 review?
Give the people what they asked for.
Well, I've been really tempted for the last few months to respond when we actually get the gear, but it's here. So let's talk about it. Vaughn V10, what's going on, Cam?
Well, now that it says V10, so it's more V awesome. No one? Crickets? All right. To the pad. So, new redesigned pad this year. Actually, probably one of the biggest changes I've seen in the Velocity series since a long time that I can think about. Now, what's being brought over from especially the SLR series that we should definitely point out. So, I want to go first for the actual balance stabilizer knee. So, Vaughn first debuted this.
Hold on. Before we get into the specifics, before you dig into all the nitty gritty, what kind of pad is this?
A leg pad? It's just for
the Velocity line has traditionally been a soft, flexible pad. You just
Correct.
said there are SLR properties.
Yes.
So is this still a soft, flexible pad?
To a point. So, as we talked about before, this is the wrong way to show flex.
But
However, we have a much, much, much stiffer upper thigh than what we've normally seen in past years from the Velocity series pad.
so this is the V10 is a stiffer velocity.
That's correct.
Okay.
Especially from the knee up.
All right.
So, thank you. Balance stabilizing. So what this means is now we're getting more stability in terms of the knee cradle of the pad. So in previous years, there's always been quite a bit of flex in the actual knee cradle itself for the Velocity series. So now when we look at this, much more stability when you're dropping down to the butterfly. That's going to allow the pad to sit nice and flush, not want to roll on you. We're still going to get a little bit of like rotation to the pad itself. That definitely helps in terms of when you're on the post, just to kind of get over top of your pad a little bit more rather than being like a brick on your leg. But that said, definitely a nice upgrade, great overall feel, and definitely adds to the overall stability of the pad itself.
How did they achieve it? We've seen Bauer build it into the face of the pad. We've seen CCM build this part is one solid piece to create that. How did Vaughn do it?
A lot of Velcro. Also, carbon going into the core of the pad right here. You can see it. You can also see a bit of a drive system in that wedge in that corner as well. So between lacing, resetting up the Velcro, and actually helping to integrate that middle stack into the core, the side of the core of the pad as well, we've achieved a more stable knee.
I said, pardon? Middle side? This adds some adjustability?
That's correct. So again, that entire cradle we can move and adjust slightly to as well. That'll help with fit. Complete removal.
Comes right out.
On that outer knee flap as well.
I like that.
That's good. Yeah, easy way to remove, and it's also clean now too. Beyond that little piece there, that gives it a nice flush look. So especially if you are dropping that strap down to the back of your calf, that will help aid in that rotation and get rid of that outside flap for you.
Okay, leg channel. See some difference on the strapping.
Yes.
But again, like I think of a Vaughn Velocity line as something that you would wear snug, because I think of it as a softer pad that you want to move with your leg, so you would wear it a little tighter. This looks like a pretty snug leg channel.
Correct. So first of all, yes, they have redesigned their leg channel. 2 Velcro strappings. They're calling it their RRC Plus Rotation Control Plus system. We get that adjustability, so we can actually take out this strap and move it inwards so you can get a tighter fit out of that leg cradle stock. These straps come over and wrap around. That's what's giving you your fit of the pad itself.
Or you can move this entire strap to the inside of the channel.
Correct. To even give you like even more of like, we call it like a super tight fit.
That is super tight, all right.
That's correct. And 1 central calf strap to close everything off to give you your strapping system. Gone is the actual rotation strap from like just on top of the calf itself.
The professor strap.
Correct. But what you gain though is these 2 straps can give you that basically similar feel based on how tight it is against the leg, but still not sacrifice any of that rotation as you're dropping down into that butterfly.
But you've lost that sort of for those who want that professor strap sitting up on top of the calf. That's no longer, like, I don't see a lacing, even the option to lace one in.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Boot, as I turned it around by accident, this looked very different.
It does look very different from a classic Vaughn.
Sort of true-esque in terms of that flat. I'm trying to think of other companies that have that flat sort of tabletop design there.
Actually, most people are kind of moving that way. Even, for example, Bowers, think of one as well with the newer Hyperlite 2, which is on the way. Everything's, yes, we've gone with that flatter boot construction. What this also does is kick the pad up quite high on the leg. It's one thing I can't stress enough so far. This pad's been fitting quite a bit bigger.
You told me you had a 6'3" goaltender that fit a 33-inch knee.
True story.
I think you're full of
No, it happened. It's real.
shortest legs ever.
Well, I mean, this is one of the...
Clearly the point is this makes a big difference.
Correct.
In fit. Account for it, especially if you're looking to order a Vaughn product online. The V10 is going to fit taller than your past model.
That's correct. Yeah, it's not your deep...
Soft.
I mean, it still is a soft boot. We still got lots of flexible, but it's not that deep boot channel anymore. Very tabletop. It will set up on your leg. Stock, Velcro toe ties, not the clips that we saw in the V9. They're now Velcro attachment. So a little bit of a nicer feature there. Always their quick slide material on the side of the pad. That brings down all the way throughout their lineup as
Pretty
well.
much the same as Brian's OptiSlide.
Yeah, very, very similar material.
Really similar.
So overall, a nice kind of redesign. If you are looking for a little bit of a stiffer pad, or if you've modded your pads in the past in the Velocity series to get a stiffer upper thigh, look no further than the new V10 leg pad.
Real quick, because those that like to buy the pad, like to buy the gloves and blocker cam, what are we looking at with the glove? I am wearing the what?
The V10 glove. So this still falls in the line of their standard Velocity series, but we have seen a redesign here. We have gone for a single piece cuff. So typically something we've only seen in the XP line or the SLR line. Again, this is just modernizing that overall.
60-degree break?
That is a 60-degree break. Nice call out. Kevlar in the palm itself to help with that impact. You're getting a good squeeze. Look at that. See, it's brand new glove off the wall too.
I got his hand.
So nice, deep, wide open pocket with the double T as well. Honestly, great overall feel. If you've liked the Velocity gloves in the past, you're still going to feel comfortable in this, even though it has changed that overall cuff design. A little bit more focused on the catching surface and the overall presence of the glove as well. But if you don't like that one, we still do have their XP series, which basically is going to feel like your CCM, your True, your 590 glove. That overall closer, especially bringing that index finger down to the base of your thumb.
Blocker.
Velocity blocker. Nice thing is here, again, you're going to feel pretty comfortable if you're coming from previous Velocity series. A bit cleaner up on the actual cuff, the actual sideboard of the blocker itself. A little bit more rigid as well, just to provide a bit better of a seal and also a solid surface, especially for those pucks catching you in that side of that blocker as well. Previous years, this has been pretty flexible. This is quite a bit more of a rigid material. They have added their carbon into that sidewall. Overall, good feeling, good balance.
Neutral hand position.
Exactly.
V10.
Check it out here at www.thehockeyshop.com or give me a call here at 604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790 to check it out. We have the Pro Carbon series in. We are still awaiting our Pro pads. So as soon as we have them, they will be up onto the website. Just to clarify, Pro Carbon, domestically made. Pro is going to be their offshore series.
For everybody that tagged us in comments on damn near every review we did for the past 2 months asking for the V10, there you go.
You did it again. Just as we were coming off that conversation with Woody and Cam, I don't know whether you heard it or not, but Hutch just jumped in with one final word, and then I was like, "What am I doing wrong?" But that was great to hear about the V10 because it cleared up some of my opinions about it from people that I've just talked to or read about the V10 line. It just solved a couple of questions.
It's like there's still listen, we did this overview right after we did the Bauer Hyperlite, and it couldn't be two more different pads. This one is a little thicker, it's a little heavier, it's a lot softer, even though Hyperlite's the softer line. Like, there is a traditional feel. If you want to feel your outer roll, like that firm block on the edge of your pad, if you want a pad that's got soft sort of foams connecting to the back of your leg, like this is a much different feeling pad than, where a lot of things are headed. So, and it will soften up. It will break in, more than some of the other products. So there's a very specific, type of goaltender that's going to want this style of pad. There's a place for it. It's just, it is a lot more of a traditional pad, Darren, than what, a lot of people are used to, or where a lot of companies are going is what I should say.
What would be the direct comparable to a CCM pad or a Bauer pad? It's not an Axis 2 comparable. Like it's not going to, the puck's not going to make a noise and pound off down the ice.
I don't think there's a comparable on the Bauer side, frankly.
Okay.
I mean, even though Hyperlight 2 is their more flexible pad, I just don't think there's a comparable. There's nothing that, no, there isn't. This is just a completely different style of pad. For True, this is going to be more like I guess a 12.2 Hutch. They're sort of their heritage line. CCM probably closer to an E-Flex.
E-Flex.
But even then, right? Like, a lot more traditional, whereas E-Flex 6 now has that knee stack, that one-piece knee stack built in. This is a more traditional build. Even though they've tried to firm it up, still a more traditional build.
Progress, or they're offering something different in the sense they've made some progress, but still holding on to that core lover of that pad.
Trying to blend the two, right?
Yeah.
Like trying to add those modern elements without going all the way. Because when you add, like, for example, on the E-Flex, when you add that one-piece knee, the thigh rise has to be stiffer because that inner edge is one piece. And so if you want a thigh rise that you can really, bend and shape significantly, then Vaughn has that, right? One that's going to soften up, maybe not quite to the Jonathan Quick degree, but a lot more than a lot of the more modern pads are. So they're walking that line. They're trying to blend both worlds. And like I said, there are upgrades there. There are improvements from past generations. They continue to move it forward, but it looks like they're not trying to lose touch with the origins of that line specifically.
It's funny because if you stay in that line, you think nothing gets any better than this. The soft, the comfort, everything about it, the flexibility. But then you go to a harder pad, and I'll use the Axis 2 line again, and you try that, and you stop two pucks where it just rockets off the pad and out of the danger area, and you're like, I can never return to something softer.
Well, and everybody's different. Yeah. And you know what the answer here is? Come to Tendy Fest so you can try them all and see.
Awesome stuff.
If you've been stuck in your old ways and you want to try the new, you might be like Darren. You'd be like, man, I can't go. I need that active rebound. I need to buy my time on, before my second save. Or you might be somebody that puts it on. It's just like, this is too stiff. It doesn't move with my leg. I can't get used to this. And that rebound ended up on a defenseman's stick and I'm screwed anyways.
I like the fact that it comes off so fast. It screws up the opposition stick, and it's there too fast. So otherwise, it's just lying right out in the open. How'd you know that from your leather pads?
Yeah.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm speechless.
You make a save, you can feel it through the pad, and then it's right there.
Sure could, and then it didn't go anywhere, did it? But in comparison to that we talk about pads that have this great rebound kick and that some that sort of deaden the rebounds, nothing deadens the rebound today like pads used to. And in my books, I'd way rather have something now that's going to kick that thing way past the guy who's standing on the front of the net looking to collect the garbage.
Kick it out and kick it out hard. What does our buddy Ben Bowns use? We'll get into his career as we go through the evolution of some British hockey and the winning on the world stage and getting back into the A pool. This is an awesome story from the best of the best when it comes to British hockey history that we're talking about this week.
Yeah, maybe the best goalie in the history of Great Britain hockey. Certainly, I can't think, honestly, I think that's a statement we can make. And he's had them at the top level of the World Championship stage before. He's gotten them back there with he had 3 shutouts in 5 games at the World Championship 1A tournament just recently, which was in Nottingham, in Great Britain. So in front of the home crowd. And there's some great lessons here. Working with different coaches, something he's done. He used to come over to North America to work with David Marcoux, but I think the goalie coaching level that's available to him back home has reached a level where they don't need that anymore. So there's some lessons in here about the evolution of the position and the coaching of it in Great Britain. There's some great mindset lessons in here. He talks about sort of how he manages big moments and how that's evolved over the years. There's a lot of great takeaways here. And then we geek out on gear. So if you're a fan of Warrior and you want to hear about that, he was in the the Bauer before, is moving back to the Warriors, something he's used before. So he talks about the glove, he talks about the speed plate, talks about a lot of, we geek out a little bit on everything. So he is you're going to pick up on this pretty quick. He's a goalie geek and proud to be one. And so it's a great conversation. I really enjoyed having it, and I appreciate his time.
Before we get into it, tell us what's happening at Sense Arena VR, which presents our feature interview each and every week on InGoal Radio, the podcast.
Well, Darren, we know the best thing anybody can do right now is come to Tendy Fest, because if you want to check out Sense Arena, Woody and I are going to have a couple of headsets there. You can come try it on, try a couple of drills, face some NHL shooters, try some of the neurocognitive training, face a power play, couple of drills that are going to test your skills. Yeah, they've even got shooters who can hit their spots every time. So maybe you want to come and try that. And of course, it is fantastic. We think the best off-ice training for goaltenders in terms of working on your skills and your vision and so on. But it's actually kind of cool too, because they've added all sorts of new features, like a crowd that's going to be there, multiple rinks you can work in. You start to see the puck marks now on your hands, your glove, your blocker. You can replay from different perspectives to see what that save looked like. Like, Sense Arena has come so far. It was already groundbreaking when it first came out, and then it's just growing in leaps and bounds. Training programs from all sorts of different pro coaches, content now from USA Hockey. There's just all sorts of great stuff, and we just think summer, off season, probably the best time to grab it, because now you can be training every single day as you get ready for your season to come.
It is the best. I love it, and I get into this rhythm with it, and you can't stop because you get just so involved and engrossed in the moment, and you're dropping pucks. That's one of the cool parts. You're making glove saves, and you're just absolutely dialed in, like you're actually on the ice.
So one of the things that's cool about Sense Arena is you can do some things that you wouldn't normally take practice time to work on, because maybe your coaches are watching, you've got certain expectations and so on. So this one day I decided I'd try the Mike Smith, Sean Burke school of goaltending, just stand on the goal line and see how many pucks I could pick off. And I know that's not what they're all about, but that's the perception. And it worked. Like, it worked really well. I couldn't believe the number of pucks that I could pick off. It didn't even seem right. I thought it was a really cool experience. And so whether you want to do that, or you just want to stand there and watch pucks go past so you can learn to read releases, you can learn to track pucks better. You've got that freedom to try all sorts of things, because you can always hit reset. You can always do it again, and there's no coach watching you.
I saw recently that's one of the things that Devin Levi does the releases. That's one of the drills he likes to do, where he takes the pro releases, but he watches for all the other details. Like, that's how accurate it is. You can pull a Craig Anderson where you don't watch the puck and just watch all the other details, and then see where the puck's going, and start building those cues as to what it looks like when it's heading top glove, what the hands look like, what the hips look like, what the shoulders look like. So the next time you're on the ice, all of that stuff becomes instinctive. It's such a cool tool that you're able to take that type of real world environment and bring it indoors and train without having to go by ice to that degree with goalies at that level. You got something, no kidding. Like, we've been espousing its virtues for years here, but that's, like, to me, the ultimate testimonial of how good this is.
Move the lines, the borders, so to speak. No bounds. That's our feature interview this week. Have fun listening to Ben from Britain.
Really excited to welcome first-time guest on the InGoal Radio podcast from Britain, Great Britain. Recently named goaltender of the tournament at the World Championship 1A. Helped his country get promoted back to the main group for the World Championships next year. Ben Bowns. Ben, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, I want to start with that tournament and how I think anybody that saw it on social media, saw some of the clips after that, maybe didn't have a chance to watch it live or know what was going on, how important and how big a moment that was, both for ice hockey in Great Britain, for you, for that team, to get back onto the main stage at the World Championships, to have that result and be able to get back to next year's level?
Well, I think it goes without saying it was massive no matter what. But I think just to be able to do that on home ice, and obviously experience it the way that we did, and the British fans experience it the way that they got to. It just made it a little bit more special. I think it was the best chance that we had, especially with the groups being a bit weaker now. Obviously, with Russia and Belarus obviously not being in there, and that kind of filtering downwards. It was our best chance ever to just get straight back up. So there was a lot of pressure on us to do that. There was still teams in there that were good, still teams that could damage you. If you had an off night, you were going to be in trouble. And luckily for us, we had 5 good games, and the couple of games that we had that weren't quite up to our standard, we didn't really get hurt, which was a sign that we were the best team in that tournament. So it was definitely a big one for us.
I mean, you played internationally. This is like, I think, 11 years since you first made the senior national team, 2012 to 2023. So you've been a part of the program for a long time, obviously playing professionally over there. Where does that rank in terms of biggest moments? Because as you said, it was in Nottingham. It was in your home country, in front of your home fans. Did you see it as, an opportunity beyond just taking the step to, something you've done all along the way, build the game over there as well, and the attention it receives?
Yeah, generally, I think it's probably my most memorable out of everything that I've won. That's probably the most memorable moment in my career so far. I mean, I always tell people when they ask me what it is, the last couple of minutes. I mean, the British fans are kind of reserved. They're not like the European fans, not like the North American fans. They kind of sit there, they cheer for a goal, and then go back to being a bit quieter, and they'll get into it, let you know if you're not playing well or whatever. But that week was just something different. The fans were totally different. It's kind of hard to explain unless you're actually there, or unless you've experienced an experience of this, an atmosphere in this league, and experienced that atmosphere that week. But the last 1 minute 40 or something like that, after we sealed it with the empty net, I went back to my net and just took it all in. I mean, it was crazy seeing an arena like that in Nottingham with just the 9,000 people just going absolutely crazy, and it just your family to your left up in the stands, and friends and everything. I mean, I even had some school friends that were there. Who I'd not seen for about 10 years. I mean, that was pretty cool. We've played, don't get me wrong, we've played in front of more fans. I mean, you play in Finland against the number 1 seed in the world at the time in front of 15,000 people, but they're always against you. Budapest, when we won the gold medal, was in front of 10,000 Hungarians, and that atmosphere was unbelievable. But they're all against you. So to finally have that on our side and do it, and like I said, it was a big moment for British hockey, and to just get it over the line, it was that week's probably the most pressure I've ever felt in my life.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was nice to just kind of get across that finish line and then just let it all out.
Okay, so let's translate that to we'll find a little takeaway here. How'd you manage all that pressure? Like, for anybody that's going into the biggest game of, at any age group, could be even us old farts playing beer league, right? Like the big championship game, you make a provincial tournament or something. You've got friends in the stands, you got family, people actually watching you. How'd you manage such a big pressure moment? Are there tools that you've developed over the years to make sure that, as much as you enjoyed that last minute 40 looking up there, the first, whatever it is, 58 minutes and 20 seconds, you were dialed in on what you needed to do?
Well, I said the biggest key or biggest change that I've made is probably in the last half a year or so, where I started using few more verbal keys out loud, kind of talking to himself. Seems a little bit crazy, but I've never really spoke about it to like openly like this. But I did struggle with a bit of kind of anxiety towards the game for the last probably 3 or 4 years. It just built up because obviously in the elite league it's slightly different, which we might end up touching on later on. But it's not like your traditional hockey league where the playoffs are the big thing. The big thing in Britain is a league, so every single game is a game 7. And when you're playing in a pressure cooker like Cardiff and the expectancy is to win, every night is, like I said, it's a game 7. So I think that it kind of built over the years, and the kind of need to win. And obviously being a goalie, you kind of take a lot of the blame for that personally. And obviously through social media, through the media, stuff like that. So I think I did kind of struggle with it probably for the last 2, 3, maybe even 4 years, until this year when I finally realized what it was, that I was kind of struggling with a little bit. And I got some help from someone in Britain, and it came up with just using some verbal keys. And me and my goalie coach in Cardiff sat down and said, right, what are the keys to my game when I'm playing my best, when I'm playing great? What are they? And it'll just be speaking out loud. So it's just basically shoulders over, eyes on the puck. That's it.
So okay, so let's go back to them. I want to go back to them, but it's funny you said like it feels crazy to say it, but like we've seen it. We've had articles, right? Like, we got guys in the National Hockey League that will write their 3 keys on the paddle of their stick and look down as a reminder. something that centers them and allows them to anchor themselves in the moment and not let the other thoughts take over. So I don't think it's a great thing. How'd you come up with yours, and what did they mean to you?
Well, I mean, when you're talking about things being written on equipment, as a kid, I used to have "Be a Warrior" on because I used to be a massive Patrick Waugh fan, and obviously that's what he used to have on his blocker. So I went back to that this year. Actually, I actually had "Be Proud" written on my blocker. It wasn't "Be a Warrior." I thought I'll come up with my own thing because I know that when I'm proud, that's when I'm at my best. I'm proud of my effort. I'm proud of my intensity. I'm proud of the compete level. So that was a little key. Sometimes it will be in the now, be present, be proud. They're the three things that I'll just reel off out loud to myself. But most of the time, it's shoulders over, eyes on the puck, follow it in. And the shoulders over is a big one that we talked through with my goalie coach. And we realized that when I'm over the puck, my weight balance is better. That's when I'm right at the top of my game. And that was it. Whenever I struggle, it was literally just my shoulders were coming back. I was sitting back, pulling my arms back, and really struggling there because I'm a bit more reactionary, so I need those shoulders forward. And that one tiny change makes such a big difference to my game.
Okay, so there's a whole bunch of different threads I want to pull on there because
Yeah.
it's funny. The Be a Warrior one, we just had Colin Delia. He just his first year at the Vancouver Canucks this year, and I noticed that Colin had it stitched on his blocker, and he told the same Patrick Waugh story. He still has it stitched on his as well, so I
That's
love
pretty
it.
cool.
Yeah, and the other part, like, so shoulders over. Are we talking like just sort of rounded and making sure the hands are forward? Because we do see some guys will sort of pin them back, and it does affect where your hands end up placed, and it does affect sort of how your back is arched, and that can affect a lot of our mechanics as a goaltender.
Yeah, I mean, when I'd said before I went to Graz, I used to be very kind of intense, very blocky. I was probably well, I was overweight and didn't move the best because we never had a lot of kind of training. Through the COVID, obviously, I shredded a lot. Obviously, going to Europe, you're like, right, yeah, I need to get more mobile. But then, unfortunately, the first period of the third game, I blew my knee. A guy got hit on top of me, and I ended up missing 15 weeks. Came back and had to kind of relearn my game, relearn my body. And I became a bit more. It became a bit more of an active goal, a bit more reactionary stance, and that's just something that progressed from working with the goalie coach in Graz, then working with Ewan King at GB straight after that, and through the elite series that they had during COVID. And it just basically it's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of rounded, but I think when people say it's get your gloves forward, I think a lot of goalies have a tendency to just shove their arms kind of straight forward. And that makes everyone kind of tense. You can't react, then you're not really relaxed. So for me, my arms are always kind of relaxed, but as soon as I move my shoulder forward, get my chest over pucks, that's when I find that I'm at my best, most reactive, most relaxed, and the arms are nice and loose.
So that's a transition that you've made in your career later on. Like from it sounds like, and it's a big question, but it sounds like there's been quite an evolution, and I'm guessing there would be various stages of it. But that's I'm thinking Graz is what 3 years ago, so that's somewhat recently for you.
Yeah, and that's probably what I found tough. And luckily, I managed to just key it in right in time for Riga at the World Championships that year. But it all kind of just fell into place. But I mean, it was even like I changed my paddle. I used to be in a 27-inch Bauer, and I changed to a 26 Warrior, which I think is a 25.5 Bauer paddle. But it was on the blue line. I'd be in full stance, ready to go, like intense as everyone wants to be. And now, obviously, if it's up on the blue line, I'm almost stood up. You see, I think you watch Carey Price. I mean, you see how relaxed he is when it's up at the top, and you think, well, the best in the world do that, then maybe I should try it as well. And to be fair, I found that it was a lot more economical. It wasn't as draining, both mentally and physically. And obviously, as the knee was getting back to full health and being able to bend it again properly, it was a massive help not having to be in that squat position, like the full squat, 100% intensity all the time.
I was going to say, just from managing your body and managing the fatigue, I'm guessing you noticed that difference right away, relaxed. And again, when I think of intense, I think probably a little wider in the stance, a little more dug in. And did you narrow things up as well?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I'd say now it's definitely a little bit narrow, not too much. I think I was kind of keyed on before where I wasn't too wide anyway, because I always find if it was too wide, I just couldn't move at all.
Right.
But yes, I'm definitely narrower than what I used to be. But it's that comes also with because obviously when you stood up a bit straighter, you're going to be narrower naturally. Obviously, as they get closer in and they get into that either whether it's a blocking zone or into the kind of grey areas, as we call it, where you don't have time to react and you give up too much net to just block, then I will be low and wide, just trying to take as much away as I can and relying on my instincts, really.
I wanted to ask you about the goalie coaches. You mentioned, this is a selfish personal thing too. You mentioned the time in Graz. Who were you working with there? Because I think we might know a few people have gone through that town.
I was working with a Swedish goalie coach called Nisa Landin.
Okay.
He was part of the Swedish national goalie program for quite a while. I think he worked with the under-20 specifically while I was in Graz. And then I think it was a year after I was in Graz, he was at Spartak Moscow, I want to say, or something like that.
Yeah.
So he went to the KHL for a year. And then I think, obviously, when everything happened, he came back to Sweden. I think he was back with the Swedish Federation again.
Okay, so what? And the other, you obviously mentioned Ewan King, who, I've had the pleasure to meet at sort of goalie conferences over here. I know he comes over to some of the things that they do in North America in terms of symposium type stuff. And you mentioned a goalie coach at Cardiff as well. History with goalie coaches, because I'm guessing they weren't always present for you growing up, learning to play the position. There's probably a lot of self-taught moments in there as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, growing up, I was kind of lucky in the Sheffield junior system where we did have a lot of kind of ex-goalies or young goalies that were coaches. So you get a little bit of help, but it was never full on. Obviously, you owe them kind of a lot just for teaching you the basics at the time, but a lot of it was self-taught. And that's why I think one of my big strengths now is just competing, because sometimes you didn't have the technique, so you just had to compete, just make a save however you could. And because I know what, as long as that puck stays out, no one's going to really care how it looks. But I'd say that there was a big influence in the EPL, which is the league. It used to be the league below the elite league at the time. My first full year there's a Finnish goalie called Pasi Raitanen, and he was a big mentor. I mean, I used to be quite serious and everything, and when I saw him play and saw how good he was, and then I saw him off the ice and how chilled, how relaxed, how fun he was, that kind of hit home. Well, you don't have to be so intense. And Pasi and me still talk regularly. I mean, he was at my wedding a few years back, and I'll be seeing him when we go back up north in a couple of weeks as well. So that's kind of cool. Goalie coach at Cardiff, I had Dan Brabham, who he came and helped us from probably halfway through my first year, and I started helping out with the junior program in Cardiff, and Dan was already a goalie coach on that, and he won't mind me saying this, but when I kind of first saw him, I'm thinking, who is this guy? Like, he can't know anything about goalie. He just looked like he didn't have a clue. And then one day he started speaking to me, and he asked me why I did something, and he started talking more, and I got to know him, and I realized actually he's a bit of a geeker. He knows a lot about goaltending, a lot more than what he looks. So he was really good. And he kind of came in. He was part-time. He'd be at most of the home games and come to training like once or twice a month. In pre-season, he'd be there most days as well. He was a big help again. Really helped me get going. Obviously, we won a few championships together in Cardiff. And then, like I said, then we moved to Graz. That's where we had Nisa, Kinga with GB. And then in Trenčín in Slovakia, I had Peter Kosa, who was actually the Slovak national team goalie coach a few years back.
All those different voices at all those different times were there. You mentioned hey, I wear the goalie geek label proudly, so no worries there. Different ideas being brought to you. Were there times where you maybe something that was being introduced you didn't love, but you had to try? Like, a lot of kids go through this, right? New coach every year at the younger levels. They want me to do this, but I feel like I'm better doing that. How do you balance that?
Yeah, that was a tough one. I think the biggest struggle I had was probably in Trenčín. I think Peter wanted me to be a bit more blocking style, which doesn't naturally suit me. I'm more, like I say, I'm not the most technical goalie because I didn't grow up with technique, and I think he wanted me to block a bit more, and I prefer to be a bit reactionary and control my rebounds a bit better than what maybe a blocking goalie does. And I think sometimes there was, through translation as well, there was maybe some wires got crossed, and I think that over there, the head coach at the time wanted you to kind of look a certain way, so Pete was trying to coach you into that. And I think it did kind of, I struggled at the start of that season. I really struggled trying to get that balance and get comfortable. And then at the end of the season, I kind of started nailing it a bit more and getting used to it. And unfortunately, by then we're out of the playoffs. We got knocked out in the first round. And then we come back to GB for Riga, and King is like, what are you doing? We need to react. You need to go back to how you were, react more. And I think we just we didn't have enough preparation that year to really get back into the swing of things. But this last year at Cardiff, once Kinga came in again, and we went back to how it were, and like spoke about early with the shoulders over, that it went back to how it used to be and felt a lot more comfortable. But at the same time, I now take some of the stuff that I learned under Peter, especially the post play situations, which he really nailed in, and that was a big thing that it did really kind of fine tune for me. It kind of makes my game a lot more whole than what it used to be.
Post play is so important, right? Connects all those other movements, and so much of the game is becoming about attacking from down low. Feel free to share some details on some of the things you dialed in there, because again, the audience here is 100% goalie, so things that your average media might not know what you're talking about. If you were to answer it, our audience is going to be all over it.
Well, I mean, with Pete, we'd probably spend 20 minutes a day just on post play. So, I mean, by the end of the season, especially preseason, right at the bat, when you first go back in and get on the ice, your hips are absolutely shredded. But no, it'd be a couple of years back, I actually had an ankle injury. I tore a ligament in my ankle. So I used to, when I worked with David Marcoux, actually, I should have mentioned him earlier, David Marcoux out in Calgary. I worked with him for a few years, and we were, when I first started working with him, that was kind of shin against the post, a bit like a Tuukka Rask.
Yep.
And I did really get used to that. And then it kind of evolved to like skate blade on the post, but I never really liked that because I didn't like the gap. So I would always go shin. And then it evolved to toe bridge. But once I injured my ankle, it was kind of hard sometimes just for me to get in that position and be comfortable. But then at the same time, I also lost a bit of power when I went shin on the post, and it is quite hard to transition off your post with the shin. So with Peter, it was a lot of more, I say post play, it's a lot of edge work, and it slow things down a lot and just make you really focus on your edge, focus on your edges, playing it flatter, playing it squarer, bouncing off into different positions and going kind of overlap into the RVH and things like that. So it was all the standard details that you'd expect goalies to know now, but it was just kind of that repetition more and more and more, and maybe putting me in certain situations that I'd not been in before during goalie practice. And it comes up every so often in the game, but in a game I'd maybe struggle or get lucky. Whereas now I know that because I've worked on it plenty of times in training, it doesn't matter what the situation is, I'm just going to pop up and make a save or be in the best position to make a save at least.
Transitions, it sounds like transitions in and out of different.
Yeah, all transitions, whether that's on your knees or whether that's to your feet, it's a mixture of everything.
You talked about hips shredded, talked about the ankle, shin on post, which David would have also worked with Cam Ward in Carolina. He was big with shin on post. I remember we had Bob Essens on, the coach of the Bruins, and he used to get questions like Tuukka's out there winning, like getting to cup finals and winning Vezina trophies, and other goalie coaches would question him because Tuukka was using shin on post. Like, why not go to the other way? And I remember Tuukka did it and then ended up with pain, and they went back to it. And the idea was, hey, he's good enough. He does this well enough with his shin and moves well enough out of it that he's fine. And the wear and tear he's saving on his body is worth it for us. Where do you come out on that balance? Is it tough to, it sounds like you felt it at times, especially with the ankle injury. Are there times where you have to sort of live to fight another day, even if you might have a little more power in a toe lock than you would in a shin?
Yeah, and I think the main thing overall for me is once you get used to it, you're obviously as you get older as well, you learn to look after your body better than when you're younger, which you expect it to be the other way around. Your body won't feel it as much, but it's just how it is. You get wiser, you start looking after yourself better. But I think the big thing that I took out of it all for me is that no matter what the situation now, because I've had all these kind of different inputs and different styles taught to me, and I've been through all this transition phase. I mean, obviously as a kid, we didn't even have square pads. We had the old style, the more rounded stuff. And it's been a massive transition and a massive change throughout the whole kind of goaltending as I've grown up. But specifically on the post play now, whether you're never going to hit your post exactly how you want it every single time. It might be once in a blue moon you'll hit it perfect, because everything just happens. We all know the speed and the craziness of what's going on. But because I've learned to use my shin, because I've learned to use a toe bridge, I've learned to use the skate blade. No matter how I hit it now, it doesn't kind of send me into a bit of a fluster and like, oh my God, I can't, what's happening? I feel horrible. I know that I can still transition out of it no matter where I am, if it's shin, I know I've maybe not got quite as much power. So I'll have to maybe try and react a bit more. Whereas the toe bridge, I know that I've got the power. And I've got a seal, whereas Skateblade, I know I've maybe not got a seal, so I've just got to be a bit smarter about that. But yeah, I think out of everything, the big things, it just makes me feel a bit more comfortable. I got more tools in my box, and for me, that's always a good thing as a goalie.
Well, I was going to say, I remember one year Freddie Anderson and the goalie coach at the time with the Toronto Maple Leafs, Steve Briere, they purposely tried to get into positions that weren't perfect and then have to work your way out of them, because the reality, as you said, you're not always going to hit it perfect. The game isn't perfect. If it was, it'd be easy for us, right? But it's scrambled. It's chaos.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes it so fun. I mean, there's nothing more fun for me than having just one mad scramble and making these big saves. Or, I mean, I can't go through some of the names that King used to kind of call them, when there'll be sometimes where I just sit up and take a shot right in the head because I've ended up on my arse somehow. And it's just that they're the fun moments. You make these saves that you shouldn't make, and they don't look good. You look like you've never played before. You look like you can't skate, but that's it. All comes back to that compete level again. That's the most part. That's the most fun part for me.
Where did it start for you? Like, you clearly love the game. You talked about, all the passion it comes through in the way you answer the questions. Where did that all start for you? How did you get started as a goalie?
Well, actually, I went to a game. I was 6 years old, I think, and it's kind of ironic because it was Sheffield Steelers against Cardiff Devils, and obviously we're big rivals in this league. But I'm playing for Cardiff now, even though I was a Sheffield kind of hometown Sheffield boy. So I was supporting Sheffield at the time, and now I'm playing for Cardiff against them. But no, I saw it, and I don't know why I just gravitated towards goaltending. But my parents thought it was just going to be kind of a craze that might last 6 weeks or so, and didn't want to spend all the money on the kit. So I started as a player at some local house leagues in Sheffield, and I ended up in the net more than the goalie. I'd be there in players' kit trying to make saves and blocking shots, and I think the parents were like, well, if he's going to do it, we might as well protect him. And obviously, lucky for me, they got me some goalie kit. It was all brown gear at the time. There's my grandma, actually, when she was here, used to have a picture on a wall, and I'd be all in the brown body armor, the brown pads and everything, and then I'd have a Ninja Turtle face paint because I'd just been at a kids' party. So, so that was always kind of cool to see when you went back. But no, it's luckily they did that, and it stayed from there.
That passion over the years, was there a point where, I mean, you're a kid playing, you love it. When did it become something that you thought, hey, what were the aspirations? When did you get into a point where you're like, hey, this is something I might be able to do at an international level till I'm, 13 years or 11, 12 years as a pro now?
I think as a kid, obviously, you always want to play in the NHL, right? That's what every kid's dream should be. But it gets to a point, especially being British as well, you kind of realize, well, I'm not going to make it to the NHL. But then you think, well, if I can make a career in the elite league, then that's awesome. You can still make decent money in the elite league. You can live a good life. And then once I made it pro, it was, well, let's get to Europe. I want to be the best British goalie that's ever been. I want to be one of the British goalies played at the highest ever level. If I'm totally honest with GB, I never actually envisioned us getting to Pool A. It did cross my mind, but it was never like, right, I'm going to get Great Britain to Pool A and we're going to play there for 3 years and then get back up there or anything like that. It was kind of just like, oh, it'd be nice to get up there. But I mean, when I kind of took over the starting role, we're in Division 1B, and yeah, it's kind of cool how it all progresses. And I think you can never really say, right, this is what I want it to be, because I think my goals changed every so often. You think, well, actually, I'm better than what I thought I was. So, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to achieve this. And I think, again, we might get a chance to touch on it later on, but I think being a British goalie, there's a stigma about British goaltending and about British goaltenders not being very good. So the first goal for me was, right, let's dominate the EPL. And I got to that point where I had a really good last year there. I'd been training with Hull in the Elite League for 3 years at this point. And then it was, right, let's get to Hull. Let's be a starter in the Elite League. I had a lot of kind of second, like 1B offers or backup offers, but I knew that if I went to them, I'd probably just get sat on the bench and not played. So I was like, right, I'm not going unless I'm a starter. And then after I got to Hull, it's like, right, let's advance to a top team in the Elite League. All right, let's win the league. Let's win the Challenge Cup. Let's win the playoffs. And obviously with GB, let's get to the starting job. Let's get us out of 1B and into 1A and then see what happens. And obviously we went on a bit of a roller coaster ride there for a few years.
Let's go to it. Let's talk about the state of the game and the state of the position there. In terms of, it sounds like you've had a lot of coaches over the years. But I know someone like, I think Ewan's had to really sort of invest in himself to become a coach as a job, as opposed to coach as something you do on the side. Like, where is the access to coaching, to teaching? Where is the interest level? How have you seen it evolve over the last decade plus?
Well, I think when I was growing up in the Sheffield junior system, we had a lot of coaches that, well, we all the coaches weren't there was no parents coaching. There could be managers or on the committee, but they were all proper coaches without trying to sound old, because they are parents that are proper coaches. And I'm not trying to say that they're not, but
Right.
I just think it works better. There's not the politics then, and sadly they've kind of faded out. And I think the state of coaching in the British system now is it's a lot of parents doing it for their kids. There's not a lot. The King, so Ewan has put in a lot of work developing the goalie program, and I think when he stepped down from that to work on himself, I think it took a bit of a nosedive for a few years, and now it's on its way back up. But yeah, I think that goalie coaching is probably the best that it's ever been in Britain right now. As for the whole of coaching, I'm not sure. I can't really comment on that because I'm not too invested in the junior clubs, but I do know there's a hell of a lot more parents involved for kind of the wrong reason without wanting to sound horrible. But then at the same time, that's also better than not having anything, because it still means that kids can play and kids can get taught something, and these clubs can run. But no, I think definitely goalies. That's probably in a better position now with the programs, and I think over the next probably 5 to 10 years, the younger generation that are experiencing this from the younger ages will benefit a lot more than what goalies have in the past.
Do you take pride in it? Like, do you feel like to be the guy that you talked about not knowing what those steps would be, and having to make a step in each way to, like, hey, not just be satisfied to be here, to make strides and continue to grow, to be a guy who represents at that stage, to be a starter for this many years, to go to other countries and play in their top leagues? Do you take some pride in that as a guy that I'm guessing other young Great Britain goaltenders can now look at and say, hey, he did it, so can I?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's I can't get goosebumps kind of just hearing you talk about it, to be fair. But I mean, it's yeah. I mean, I never really thought about it, if I'm honest, until a few years back, and I think it was you who sat down. I think it was in Finland actually. I was going through a little bit of a rough spell, and obviously Slovakia it was a long year. Let's just call it that. But he sat down and he said to me, he's like, "Look, you do realize you're the best ever British goaltender," and I know it's not like a Carey Price being the best goalie ever in the world, or Patrick Ward being the best goalie in the world. You know what I mean? But still, I mean, as a little Brit from Sheffield, it's pretty cool to hear that, and to be able to have broke down the barriers and obviously battle against that stigmatism of British goaltenders being bad. I am proud of how it's all panned out, and I wouldn't really change anything. And to know that there are young goalies there that look up to you and kind of want to be you, and you set an example, and they see it and say, well, maybe I can do that in the future. That is kind of cool.
What and I don't know, and I apologize, and I'm putting you on the spot here because I'm not sure you would even know, but like, how many other, like, as you get into the top level there, are there other or is goalie a position that's largely imports? Are there other guys starting to take
It's
advantage of those opportunities?
Well, I'm the only starting goalie that's British in this league.
Okay.
Um, Unfortunately, when I first came into the league, there was me and Stephen Murphy, who was a starter for GB just before me. And before I entered into the league, there was Stephen Murphy and Stephen Lyle, who he was another goalie using Cardiff as well, Stevie Lyle. And once Lily dropped down to the EPL, Murph eventually retired, and now it's just me being the starter. Um, and there's Jackson Whistle in Belfast, so he will get 15, 20 games a season, maybe slightly more.
We know him
I
from
think he
over
had,
here.
yeah. So he had a pretty decent year this year, and yeah, but it is sad to see that there's only really me in the top league in Britain. And obviously, when you look out to Europe, there's no British goalies. And the league below, I mean, even in that league, that is all British goaltenders. I mean, they have just brought in a rule where they can use imports, which I think is really sad. When it's a kind of a development league, and they've already got decent British goalies, but I think some of the goalies in that league are kind of aging, for want of a better word. I played against them when I was in that league. 10, 11 years ago, whatever it was. So that kind of shows you that there's not a lot come through over the last 10 years. But I do, like I said, with the stuff that's in place now, hopefully we'll start to see some goalies coming through and teams starting to give them a chance.
When you came over in the summers, just to go back to a little bit to with the work with David, obviously we know David from his time with the Calgary Flames and his time with the Carolina Hurricanes, and coached at the highest level and well regarded. What brought you over here? What was that experience like compared to the training you'd gotten elsewhere? You know, as much as he'd worked in the National Hockey League, it doesn't, like, you're also working with great coaches over there as well. So I don't want to like categorize one against the other. More, what difference did you notice when you were over here training versus back home?
Well, I think David was just a little bit more in detail at that point. He'd obviously been around some big goalies, and he got a big CV, right? And I think I can remember coming the first time. So our owners in Cardiff are actually from Calgary. So they kind of reached out and they had a contact with Marku, and the team flew me out there. I lived with the owners for about 2 weeks every year for about 4 years in a row, and I'd work with David for 2 weeks straight, pretty much. The odd time I'd go on and do a little skate with a couple of the guys that were around, whether they were NHL guys or AHL guys or whatever. I remember going on a little skate with some of the Flames and their prospects one of the years as well. But no, coming on with David, it was just kind of it was another level, a bit more detail to my game, like I said, and just really fine tuning it going into the season. But I can remember the first year, I was a little bit nervous coming into it and thinking, oh, is he gonna just think, oh, what does this guy know what he's on about? Like, is he just kind of, he's coming from the British League? Is he more of a rec goalie or whatever? And the first week, I was absolutely terrible. I think I got in my own head, and once I kind of settled down and got used to it, I was fine after that. And once I got the first week out of the way, the next 3 years or so were fine. And I found Marku to be a really good, really big help.
You just needed to have discovered the mantra, the words to say to you. You just needed to have learned to talk to yourself earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to ask you a little bit. Let's go to the gear, because I know you're a Bauer guy now. I believe last time I checked, wearing the Bauer kit.
Yeah,
that's a long way from the brown leather.
Yeah. Well, actually, it went brown leather. It was a make brown. It was So
the actual brown
the actual
brand.
Brown brand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they were just kind of cotton pads. Yeah, but they were. But yeah, it's still a long way. To be fair, when I first started, the junior club in Sheffield had a set of goaltender kit for people to try, and that genuinely was the brown leather pads with it was a catcher that didn't have any net, and it was just like a catching mitt, really, all leather and proper old school kind of waffle board, as people like to call it. So there was actually people wearing them while I were in these nice shiny, well, not shiny because they were just cotton pads, but these flashy brown pads. But
And evolution now, like with the gear, are you a guy that dials into the gear? Are you geeked out by it? Do you get into all the little nuances as you transition? Or is accessibility, is that part of the issue? Like in terms of the ability for kids to go get gear readily over there? Is that something that's somewhat easy in an era of online purchases and stuff like that? Or is it more difficult?
No, I think it's readily available over here. It's easy for them to kind of tweak stuff. There's the shop that sponsors me every year. They have a big shop in Sheffield, and they're really good. But no, I think for me, I used to be a mega nerd.
Okay.
Used to really dial into it, but I think over the years, I've kind of tailed off a little bit. It's like, well, all these changes that are coming out, there's goaltenders in the NHL that are using, they're going to be fine. I don't need to look into it too much, and I'll adapt to it. I've been in different sets of pads so many years. The thing that I am kind of big on are my gloves, because I think it's better having a catcher and a blocker than two blockers. You don't want to get a reputation for not being able to catch. And next year, actually, the club's got a deal with Warrior, so we're actually going back to Warrior. So I've got to go back to Warrior kit next year.
Okay.
So that'll be the RG6s, I believe, and I'll be going for the curve blocker on that. But no, I think with the Bowers, they were really good. I mean, the Warriors shocked me when I first used them in Riga, and that's why I stayed with them in Trenchant. And then this year, the sponsor, like I said, the shop in Sheffield, I think he wanted me more in Bowers, so I went back to them because I said the big thing with the Bowers over the Warriors is the Bauer pads are more imposing. That would be my one thing with the Warriors. The Warriors feel really nice, but I just think the Bauer pads are more imposing.
You mean visually? Like they
visually
they present bigger?
Yeah.
Okay.
They just look a little bit bigger. Yeah. I don't know how that is, whether it's the way that they build them or what. I always think the Warriors look a little bit skinny, but so I've gone with kind of a design for next season that was a bit more styled on the bows that I had this year to see if that helps with that. But no matter what happened next year, if I'd have been in bow pads again, I would have gone with Warrior gloves because I've never worn a glove that I've liked as much as the Warrior. The Warrior glove was just incredible for me. I absolutely love that one.
Okay, so are you geeked out enough to be able to tell us which model it was and what you liked about it?
So I just gone for the next year will just be the standard RG6, not the 6.1, I believe is the other one. So it's the 6, but I have the 75-degree break. And I always go game ready as well, as crazy as that seems. I had a practice glove in Graz. Obviously that was Bauer, but I just felt like that was another blocker and I felt like I was getting into a few bad habits in training. So I'd rather get like 3 or 4 catches in and just use game ready and suck it up in practice to take a stinger every so often and just feel the same throughout rather than having a practice glove or a pro palm and then a game ready glove at the weekend. But yeah, it's the one I used this year was dressed as a Mac, but it was a hyperlight, but I just couldn't quite get on with the angle again. I started kind of getting into it down the last probably half, maybe last quarter of the season, but I really struggled to start because it was just so different to the Warrior. But the Warrior, I just felt like it closed differently to any other glove that I've worn before, and just gave me so much more confidence.
Oh well, huge shout out for them. This is a nice boost
Yeah,
for Warrior right now, so we love it.
yeah.
But probably some people heard that and would be surprised, and I don't think everyone realized this. You don't always get a choice.
No, not always. I mean, I've been lucky enough to pretty much get a choice every year, and this is the first time that I've ever been told, right, it's part of our deal, it's part of our contract. But I think that also helps them get a better deal with Warrior because Warrior were like, well, Bowns has wore our pads before. He knows what they're like. We know he hasn't got an excuse to not be in them. Whereas I think if it had been a case where Warrior had come in and the club would have said, right, you have to wear Warrior, then I might have, and I've never worn them before, then I might have been in a position to be like, well, I'm not wearing them. I need to know what's best for me. And I probably would have. I mean, even the Warriors I had in Riga, they gave me a demo set to bring home and try. And I wore it throughout the Elite Series during COVID to get used to it, ready for when I got my own set delivered to Riga. Whenever I change kit, I never just jump into it. I always have to try it. I will never jump into a kit and not have tried it at all on the ice before. I need to make sure that I like it because, like I say, it's so important to not just your game, but how you feel.
Well, it's good to know there is some flexibility because we have heard of team deals and they can be more or less rigid depending on who you are and where you're playing.
Yeah.
But in some cases, they can be pretty firm about, hey, this is what we wear here.
Yeah, I mean, in Graz as well, they were a Bauer team. So again, I dropped on every time I've been at a team that said with this kind of brand. I've been lucky enough to be wearing that brand or be used to that brand already.
And now, I mean, I got to ask, have you tried the Warrior with the slide plate on it?
That's what I wore in Trenton, yeah, and in Finland.
So you did wear it with, and what do you like? Because we haven't had a lot of experience with it. So give us your overview, what you liked.
It was fast, very fast, lightning fast. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it in Cardiff next year. I might just go straight with it because I felt like I had the speed, but I felt like it was a little bit harder to control at times because you were just moving so fast.
Right.
And it felt like you had to really tone down the amount of power you put into pushes, which is good because again, it's more economical and you're losing less energy. But it did kind of mess.
It's an adjustment.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it was when I got the pads in Trenton because in Trenton I had the RG5s, but it was like a hybrid because they give me all the internals of the RG6 and the speed plate, but it was dressed as an RG5 because they hadn't released the 6s yet. But because of COVID, the gear didn't come till December because the factory shut down. So I had to play the first half a season with the pads from Riga, which were just straight RG5s and no speed plate. And when it came, I kind of tried it, loved it. So I think I just got a bit excited really with how fast I was sliding. Kept it on, and I tried taking it off, especially in Finland, and it felt like I couldn't push anywhere. It felt like my pads were just stopping because I'd been used to just sliding so easily. And then obviously the Bowers, they slide so well, but they're not like leather. They're the kind of plasticky style, aren't they? Anyway, so the foam, whatever it is that they use.
Yeah.
So
the
their kind of
Cortex.
slide is yeah. So they don't slide as fast as the speed plate, but they slide faster than when you take the speed plate off. So they were nice in between for me to get used to. So I think next year I might start with it off and see what I think to it, and then maybe reintroduce it or just stick without it.
But you love the gloves. That's good to hear.
Yeah, no, the gloves are great. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see the curved blocker this year, because
That's
when I
it.
had the ones in trench, it was a flat blocker. So I got the 6.1, I think it is, a blocker is with a curve on.
And that'll be a first for you.
That'll be the first warrior for me. Yeah. So like I said, last time I had the flat one, which I really liked, but I just think you can control rebounds a bit better with that little traditional curve on the end.
On the top. Okay, and last one, on the gear side of things, how long does the set have to last you for? Because we see different levels, different pro leagues. Even over here, at some junior leagues, it's you got to go the whole year. Other junior leagues, you're getting multiple sets. Where is it for you playing in the top British league? Is it you got to get through the year on one, or do you get a couple?
I think if you're at one of the lower budget teams, you'll have to get through the year on one. But for me, luckily in Cardiff, if my kit breaks down or I'm getting hurt or whatever, they'll just replace it. So I'll start the season with the set of pads and 2 gloves, 2 blockers. I'll probably replace the pads. Might need a third glove and blocker. But we just kind of see how that goes, and we manage it really. But yeah, I'm in a position where I'm lucky. So if I need an extra set of pads, then they'll be bought for me.
Love it, love it. Hey, listen, Ben, this is awesome. Can't wait to watch you in the Pool A of the World Championships next year. If I believe it's Czechia.
Yeah, I think they just got announced. We're in Prague.
Nice.
We're in the group against Prague. Yeah, I can't remember who it is. I know that we got Finland. I know we've got Austria and Norway in there, because they're obviously the two that we got to highlight as trying to take points off. I can't remember the other teams that are in there, but I think Czech might be in there. Oh, Switzerland are a team in there. Yeah, so it's gonna be another tricky one for us.
Well, we're looking forward to watching you on that stage. Congratulations on an exceptional tournament. 3 shutouts in 5 games to help Great Britain get back there. Really enjoyed the conversation. Taken far too long for us to have this conversation. I'm going to hold you to a part 2 at some point down the road here, because it was really fun. And I know our audience is going to, a lot of great takeaways about, whether it's talking about gear or talking about staying in the moment and some of the different techniques you've used for that. Really appreciate it. And our audience is going to love this conversation too.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having us on.
You get those rankings. Anybody associated with podcasts realizes that you can get where you are on this list in the United States, or that list in Mexico, or that list in Uruguay. Every country's got it, and you're moving up and down on these various rankings. We got to be climbing big time on the hockey rankings for Great Britain.
Yeah, we've had a lot of feedback after last week's interview, and we're all Britain all the time right now. I also want to get you and King, who Ben Bowns mentioned there, the goalie coach. He's actually over at Justin Goldman's the Goalie Guild's retreat, their annual international goaltending retreat in Colorado right now. But I want to get him on later in the summer, because he's been as you heard from Ben, been a big part of the development there and done a lot of great things for goaltending in Great Britain. And yeah, I think there's some good lessons there and some good stories. So we promise we'll follow up on that.
Other goaltenders with British ties that we've looked at over the years, because Ben's playing for the national team. He's the only British goaltender in the domestic league, I believe. So he deserves all kinds of accolades. But just to get ahead of anybody that wants to write in and say, hey, this guy also is from Britain, you guys are talking about, we've got a few names, right?
We do. And let's just qualify it. The few names that we Googled, just so that we could see, where maybe Ben stands amongst British goaltenders. The few names that popped up were not raised in the UK, but born in the UK. So there is a Vezina Trophy winning goaltender in the Hall of Fame, born in Scotland.
Ooh, let's go Marc-Andre Fleury.
It's from roughly when you started playing hockey, Darren. It was around 1932.
Oh, that was good. Let's go Turk Broda.
Yeah, Charlie Gardner.
No, Turk Broda's Brandon. Oh, Charlie Gardner.
Yeah, Charlie Gardner. Won the Vezina Trophy twice.
I always looked up to Charlie when I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm sure. Just you were a couple levels below him in minor hockey.
Yeah. I got my first hip replacement done when Charlie won his Vezina.
and who played over 400 games in the National Hockey League, guys, and was born in the United Kingdom, but again, not raised there.
We need Jeopardy music.
Yeah, we do.
Got a nickname that fits for the United Kingdom.
King,
Lord.
No, Henrik.
Lord Byron.
Oh, Lord Byron.
Mm-hmm.
That's a perfect nickname. I love my Byron Defoe.
Yeah.
Loved my Byron Defoe.
Yeah, and
There's
a
a guy
few
who
others,
had
of
some-
course. Apologies to all the other goaltenders who've played games in the National Hockey League. I've got a list here in front of me that has about 8 of them on it. So, but I don't know if any were actually raised there or not. We'd have to do a little bit more research.
For our buddy BB, he plays in the domestic league and for the national team, and I think he deserves that title. I'm going to make a decision here and just decide for us all that he deserves that title of the best British goaltender.
Fitting. See, fitting. We were going with royal proclamations now. Darren's on it.
Royal proclamations. I love it. One more shout out as we try to make our plans firm for Pete Fry and Tandy Fest. Let's start with Pete Fry. Hutch.
Well, let's start with Pete Fry at Tendy Fest. So Tendy Fest is the 17th of June. It's less than 2 weeks away from us in Vancouver. Go check out Tendy Fest. I think it's 1 to 5 in the afternoon. We have people come from as far away as Calgary and Seattle to come try out the gear and meet all the great guests that are going to be there. Pete Fry will be there with us at our table, hanging out for the day. And then a week later, he'll be presenting his mindset seminar for goaltenders, for coaches. We even had a few parents show up. It's a great thing, great way to spend a day in your off season to help you become a better goaltender for the season ahead. That's the 24th, both in person and online. Check it out at ingoalmag.com.
Pete Fry on the 24th and Tendy Fest Woody on the 17th.
Yep, make sure don't miss it. Like I said, check out all the hockey shop social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They're probably on some of the more modern. They probably got a TikTok. If you ever want to see Cam dance, go find.
They do now, yeah.
Yeah. Let's make Cam dance on TikTok. And if there's no Cam dancing on their TikTok, we'll ask him to do it at Tendy Fest. We got great guests coming. We've got Ian Clark coming with us. I got Mackenzie Skapski, the Calgary Wranglers, Calgary Flames goalie development coach is going to be there. As Hutch mentioned, we got Pete Fry. We're going to bring some Sense Arena. And of course, equipment from every major manufacturer so you can get on the ice and test it yourself. Make sure you check the hockey shop, especially on their Facebook page. There'll be a lot of sort of information and details in terms of what gear you need to bring. Because obviously they're not bringing you gitch or undergarments. You got to have your own. What you need to bring to make sure you can get out on the ice, including at certain ages, potentially. I haven't even checked, but do you need a parent waiver, things like that? Make sure you come prepared. Check out all their social media channels to get all the answers to your questions. And if you got any, just call Cam and annoy him.
We'll keep you up to date on what's happening on the final few tournaments and championships. The Memorial Cup wrapping up, as well as the Stanley Cup playoffs as we head down the home stretch towards the really fun time with the draft as we get to turn the page and start all over towards a new year. For David Hutchison, Kevin Woodlake, Cam, as well as Ben, thanks for listening to InGoal Radio, the podcast.